I was going to tell you about when my brother and I had to go get the Christmas tree for Christmas. We went off into the woods, long ways off for little kids, through a lot of pile of snow, and it was really cold out that day. In those days, we only had shoes with rubber boots over the shoes. We called them overshoes. And we walked off into the woods with the axe, and we got the tree, and we carried it back home. When I got home, I was crying. My feet were froze. I went in, my older brother took off my shoes, and he said, her feet are froze, and he went and got a pan of cold water. Actually, it was probably more just not ice cold, but it was just cold. And I said, no, I don't want the cold water. I want hot water. My feet are so cold. And he says, no, you can't have the hot water. He says, you've got to have the regular water. He said, and he thawed my feet out, and they're all right, I guess, till this day.
He was treating you correctly for frostbite.
Right, I had frostbite. Well, I remember I was probably 4 years old, maybe close to 5, I'm not sure, maybe younger, I don't know. We moved there when I was 3 years old, so, but I was still small, but it was my dad's turn to go up to the farmers that lived above us and help with the haying. And I had a notion I was going to go up there too. There was a big long field between us and the farm, but I took the road and I took off and went up there. My mom must have missed me, because next thing you know, my mom showed up and she had a switch in her hand. And I remember before my mom died, I had asked her, Mom, why did you whip me with that rose bush all the way home? And she laughed and she says, oh, Bevy, that wasn't a rose bush. That was off the lilac tree. But she did. She switched me all the way home, or at least it seemed all the way home. And I never ran off again.
Thank goodness you didn't have any other kids that scared you like that, right? Kids of yours.
I had plenty. But
so that's where you got the switches from, huh?
Well, I believed in switching kids. There's Trev, I think.
Yep. And because of it, we learned self-respect and integrity and not to do bad stuff and respect for others and all sorts of other bad habits.
Right, I hope so. I'm still teaching you some.
I'm still trying to learn.
Well, my brother, my oldest brother, Bob, he raised Angora rabbits. And they were beautiful, white, long fur. And I remember him having to take, is it indelible ink they call it, and mark their ears. And he did that, and then he would sell the fur. And I don't think he did it. It doesn't seem like he did it too long. I was about 2.5 years old, and my mom had given me an empty pail with a spoon to lick the honey out. And I had drooled it all down onto my chest. I only had on a little diaper or panties, I don't know which. And this bumblebee landed on my chest. My mom was out milking the cow. She was sitting on a little 3-legged stool, and I can remember it just like and she was milking the cow sitting on that stool, and I started screaming when I saw the bumblebee. It didn't sting me, but she came running with a stool in one hand and the milk pail in the other hand. And when she saw what it was about, I don't know. I don't ever remember if she went back to the cow or what.
You mentioned cows and chickens. What other animals did you have when you were growing up?
Well, we lived in Malone, New York when I was really small, and then we moved into the city for just a while. When I was 3 years old, we moved to the farm in Detroit, New York. And we had several cows. Um, One was my special cow that my dad taught me to milk, and he gave me that one. Of course, that's because it had to have kickers on it. If no one knows what kickers are, they're just they're shackles like that you put on the cow's legs so they can't kick and put their foot in the milk pail, which happened to me when I started milking her. And but I loved that cow, and that was the one that he taught me to milk, and the one I had to get up before school in the morning and go out and milk it. Now, as for the other animals, we had pigs, and I don't know if I should tell this.
No, go ahead.
But I remember they neutered the pigs. Is that
Mm-hmm.
what you call it? And when they neutered them, they used salt to kill the bacteria as an antiseptic, I suppose. And I remember running and hiding under the bed when I'd hear those poor little pigs
They
scream.
do. They baby pigs scream something fierce.
Oh, and it just scared me. But um, we also rode on the bull, and we'd get on him, and to make him move, we'd twist his tail. Of course, a lot of times I'd land off. My brother did pretty well,
Which brother was that? Uncle Waddy?
Uncle Waddy, and yeah, he was pretty good at things like that. I have a picture of him riding the pigs. I should have brought that out, and you could have shown it.
Well, I can take a picture of
And
it later
yeah,
and
put
post it
it
on.
in,
Yeah.
and and I rode them too, but I wasn't in that picture. Maybe I was trying to get on one or something. But I could remember getting off the school bus, and we had to walk maybe a mile, maybe not that much, I'm not sure, but we had to go up over this big hill. We lived on a dirt road, and going up over the hill, I could smell. My dad had hams in a big wooden barrel. He used, I believe, hickory. Um, and he had a big canvas over it. I can remember that. I was only like 7, 8 years old, but I could smell those hams. And oh, that was such a wonderful smell. I just liked that. But I hated the season when they, killed the pigs,
Yeah.
and for me, but I just stayed away from that. But then I did have to help, I guess, scrub some of the hair off from
Yeah.
them. They'd dip them in boiling water, and then pull them out, and then we'd have to brush with this. I don't remember what the brush was
Like a
like. It
scraper.
was a scraper more, yes, yes.
Cool. So the whole adage uphill both ways to school was almost right, huh? You were talking about the big hill and you
Yes, yes, yes. We had to walk down through that in a snowstorm. I remember walking down one day. The snowplows didn't go through like they did even on the main roads, but we were walking down. We had a neighbor down the road about a fifth of a mile from us, and we were walking down. My two sisters were ahead of me, and the snow was coming down, and did I say it was like up to my chest?
No, not yet.
Yes, it was like the snow was like up to my chest in the road.
And how old were you then?
Oh, probably we moved from there when I was 9, so it had to be before that. And the neighbor woman was standing in the window and making motions and stuff, and I think finally she came to the door and said the schools are closed, because I don't think my mom listened to the radio, to find out. And but anyway, we walked all the way down there to the bus stop, but the bus never came, and then we had to walk back. It was cold.
Oh.
My dad and some of the neighbor farmers would all get together and help hay. And I remember some of them used tractors, some of them used horses. I think this time they used the horse, but our place was to set up. They would pitch the hay up with forks, and my brother and I would have to pounce it down.
Oh, so this is free. They're not in bales.
No bales back then. We would pounce them down, and then we would go to the barn, and they had this great big, what we called the fork lift, and they would stick that fork into the hay, and it would somehow, either the tractor or the horses pulled up the rope, and then that hay fork would open up and drop the hay into the hay mow. Had a lot of fun in those hay mows, jumping and playing, and we had a big rope that we could swing on.
The original bouncy houses.
Yeah.
Oh,
That was really fun.
cool.
We had a hay rake too before, it had to be raked up. And I remember my dad when he got his farm-all tractor, and he was so pleased over that. But my brother and I were the ones that had to do the work with it a lot. I would sit on the rake, and remember, I was just a little girl, and my brother would drive the tractor. He was only 2 years older than I was, and he would be driving, and I would be sitting on the rake, and it had a foot pedal, and I would have to hold on to both of those seats on that rake and stand up and push on that pedal for that rake to come up and release the furrows of hay. You didn't know that, didn't I ever tell you?
Yeah, you told me. I just love it when I hear it, because today that would be number one, child labor laws, number two, OSHA. Riding on a rake, if you ever got caught under one of those rakes, you would pretty much be through as a little girl.
Yeah, but remember, we learned how to do those things, and we weren't sitting home watching a TV or playing on tablets or any of that kind of stuff. We were out. We were supposed to work. That was
easy. Some of my viewers are watching on a tablet.
It's like they say, kids today say, well, give me my allotment or my allowance.
Yeah.
And back then, it was, you work for your allowance, and your allowance is your food and your home and your clothes and what you have.
Yeah. Nowadays, we take money and for granted. If we don't have clothes, we go out and buy clothes. There was a time not too long ago. I mean, we're talking. You were born in 46.
36.
36. Okay, so we're talking the 40s. So that was 60 years ago that you were growing up. That you were doing these things. There was no go to say you wanted a new dress. You bought the material.
I remember people giving my mom, because there were 6 of us kids. And people were very nice back then. They would help out wherever they could, and they would give my mom hand-me-downs. But one of the things that they did do was they would sometimes give her a piece of material, and or she would buy a piece of material, and she made all of our clothes. She knit mittens, and I remember her taking me to the doctor because my hands were all broken out, something terrible. And she took me to the doctor, and the doctor said, "Do you knit her mittens with wool?" And my mom said, "Yes, wool yarn." And he said, "Well, I'm afraid she's allergic to wool."
Oh no.
And then he said, he said, wool comes from sheep, and sheep is lanolin. And right to this day, I am allergic to lanolin.
I remember you knitting us mittens and socks. We did the whole bread bag over the feet thing.
Yeah.
At least till the moon boots came out. Um, and you know, we never lacked for anything. And you canned a lot of the food that made me the big boy I am today was canned and preserved by you.
Yeah, I learned how to can, and I had a lot of goofs, but I eventually learned how to can, and
I only count 5 goofs. Tommy, Tammy, Trina, Terrell, and Trevor.
what about Tracy?
No, he's not a goof. He's a good kid.
I love all my kids. Tommy's in heaven.
Yeah. I remember, weeding the garden. If Pa could see me now, I can't wait to get out and start working in the garden this year. I mean, the snow just came off my garden a few days ago. And if Pa could see me, he'd probably
Oh,
swat me in the back of the head because I hated going in the garden.
I love to garden.